Internationally renowned illustrator Shaun Tan's work needs no introduction. His books and animations are beloved by millions, and he's won a swag of awards, including a Best Short Film Oscar for The Lost Thing. Now, Tan's fans at the Melbourne Writers' Festival are about to see a new take on one of his best-known works, with a musical adaptation of the 2006 book, The Arrival.
The Arrival is a kind of a graphic novel or a picture book, depending on how you approach it. It's wordless. It's a immigrant story, essentially. My basic concept was a man travelling to a foreign country, and it's foreign in every sense of the word, so even the reader doesn't recognise it, and as an author I don't recognise it. And that you're confronted by the experience of encountering genuine strangeness, but at the same time the circumstances are very familiar to us. We understand the context and the problems involved.
It's performed by the multi-instrumental orchestra of the Underground, and was the brainchild of composer and musician Ben Walsh.
He's not the first person to suggest putting music to The Arrival. A lot of people have done it professionally or unprofessionally, and either directly or through partial influence of the book, because it's a sort of story that does compel people to add sound because it's so silent, there's no words or anything. So I've always been very open-minded towards adaptations. I see my work as an artist as being to produce something that's open to interpretation by somebody else, whether it's a reader or another artist. I've collaborated a lot with other people in the past. So I was very optimistic about Ben's approach, and pretty much left him to it.
And what was Tan's initial reaction when he heard the music?
I was fascinated, because obviously I'd never seen the work presented in that way. For a start, I'd never seen the images presented one after the other as individual panels projected on a screen. So that in itself is a novel experience. But then to have music playing over that, it felt very natural, so it didn't feel jarring. It felt like, this is almost, it was meant to be happening like this, that the two forms worked so well together.
Already well known, Tan's stardom shot to new heights with his 2011 Academy Award win.
Our film is about a creature that nobody pays any attention to, so this is wonderfully ironic.
Half a year on, the illustrator can reflect on what the Oscar might mean for his career.
It still feels on my own terms. It feels like nothing much has changed. I've been doing very similar work for such a long period now that the introduction of an award feels like a external influence that doesn't have as much effect as you might think, because for a start I have very long-term projects, and so I already have things that I was planning to do for some years in advance actually. So the railway lines are already laid down for me through the last 15 years of work already. Certainly it feels like the rest of the world has changed slightly, so you're finding that people that you wouldn't necessarily think know anything about my work recognise it. That's kind of surprising, and that's also people are interested in your work because of who you are rather than the work itself, which I feel is actually a bit of a risk, because not all of my work I think is that great. It's something of a, especially the Oscar thing is like a fascinating detour from what I normally do, but I have to say it doesn't feel like much beyond that in terms of my professional life.
And as for new projects, we had to ask, what's next for Shaun Tan?
Well, I was asked this question recently by a German journalist, and I made up something about wanting to be involved in the Olympics. But the truth is I'll just be doing the same stuff that I've always been doing with variations. So, for instance, projects with composers and so on fascinate me because they're so outside of what I'd normally do. but I still generally just follow my nose. I've never been terribly ambitious, like, oh, now I want to do this and now I want to do that. It's more like an idea will be suggested to me or come up through some sort of accident, and I'll think that's not a bad idea. Let's just have a look at that. At the moment, I'm just working on a picture book, which is almost a return to a more conventional format, away from film or longer form illustrated books. And so, kind of, as I said before, I'm pretty much following a railway line that I've always been building. But who knows what I'll be doing in the next 5 years. It really depends on what comes along on a case-by-case basis, and that's part of the fun, I guess.
Shaun Tan's The Arrival is the keynote event at the Melbourne Writers' Festival. The performance is on August 26th at the Melbourne Recital Centre.